This watch is clearly in need of some new straps. I thought it would be a simple project to try myself, so I grabbed a scrap of leather and trimmed the edge to get a perfectly straight cut. Then, using a ruler, I measured 20 millimeters from the end and cut two strips of the same thickness. The next step in the process is going to be skiving the ends of these strips so that when I fold them over and create a loop, they aren't too thick. This will add to the overall comfort of the strap later on. Using a penny, I scraped a half circle into the end and cut it with a pair of scissors to get a perfectly rounded edge. These loops will eventually be sewn shut for maximum strength, but for now, I'm going to glue them and prepare them for the sewing process for better accuracy. I use this sewing needle to occupy the space for the spring bar and to prevent the glue from reaching all the way down the loop. This pops out really easily just by pushing it against the table. Now that I have all of these glued up, we can move on to tapering them so that they fit the buckle and the watch perfectly. You'll see that the watch side is 20 millimeters and the buckle is 18 millimeters. This requires me to cut a taper, or 1 millimeter off of each end, in order for this to fit. Next, I'm going to cut a hole for the buckle. Using a hole punch, I'll get a nice rounded edge on the inside, and then I'll use the chisel to cut the scrap. The spring bar will fit perfectly through that loop now, and I can attach the buckle, which looks like this. Using this tool, which is called a pricking iron, I'm going to poke holes and create a perfectly spaced stitch across the strap. Then I'm going to thread my needles with this thick polyester leather thread. It's a very simple saddle stitch, which requires the use of 2 sewing needles on either end. I like to push it through the hole and then use a pair of pliers to pull it through just to save a bit of my finger strength. This took about 30 minutes to sew all of these seams. Now that the stitching is completed, I can trim the excess off with a pair of scissors and use a lighter to melt the ends of the polyester thread, which I can then smush with my thumb to get a perfectly nice flat finish. Next, I'm going to use the beveling tool to remove the bottom edge and make them a bit more comfortable. Perfect. Next, we can attach them to the watch and see how they're looking. I'll push the spring bars through their holes and then use this tool to bend it down and put it inside the watch. I noticed a bit of scuffing, so I used this end of cork and I buffed out and just dispersed a bit more of that oil across the leather to get rid of any scuffs that I created. Here's a view from the backside where you can really see how the stitching turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. It's very symmetrical. So of course, there's no holes, so I went ahead and popped some holes in this so that the buckle can actually attach. And of course, we are still missing the strap retainer, so this excess piece just sort of flops around. So I went ahead and cut out this small leather strap and stitched it together and put it on that side. So that way, when you put the strap on, it fits in nicely like that and keeps it tucked away. With that, this project is totally finished. It's very comfortable, thin, wearable. Highly recommend trying this project on your own. 2 thumbs up.